Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Judaism, the place of worship for a Jewish congregation. An edifice devoted to special or exalted purposes. Place of worship consisting of an edifice for the worship of a deity. The flat area on either side of the forehead. The veins in his temple throbbed. Judaism, the place of worship for a Jewish congregation. The Mormon Temple. Judaism, the place of worship for a Jewish congregation. Judaism, a portable sanctuary in which the Jews carried the Ark of the Covenant on their exodus. Any building where congregations gather for prayer. 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 The commercial activity involved in repairing old structures or constructing new ones. Workers in the building trades. The act of constructing something. His hobby was the building of boats. A structure that has a roof and walls and stands more or less permanently in one place. There was a 3-story building on the corner. The occupants of a building. The entire building complained about the noise. A structure that has a roof and walls and stands more or less permanently in one place. It was an imposing edifice. A characteristic property that defines the apparent individual nature of something. The characteristic parts of a person's face: eyes and nose and mouth and chin. His lineaments were very regular. A prominent attribute or aspect of something. The map showed roads and other features. The principal, full-length film in a program at a movie theater. The feature tonight is Casablanca. Linguistics. A distinctive characteristic of a linguistic unit that serves to distinguish it from other units of the same kind. Have as a feature. This restaurant features the most famous chefs in France. A special or prominent article in a newspaper or magazine. They ran a feature on retirement planning. Wear or display in an ostentatious or proud manner. The characteristic parts of a person's face: eyes and nose and mouth and chin. An expression of pleasure crossed his features. An article of merchandise that is displayed or advertised more than other articles. A rectangular tiered temple or terraced mound erected by the ancient Assyrians and Babylonians. A rectangular tiered temple or terraced mound erected by the ancient Assyrians and Babylonians. A rectangular tiered temple or terraced mound erected by the ancient Assyrians and Babylonians. All the gods of a religion. A monument commemorating a nation's dead heroes. Antiquity, a temple to all the gods. A Chinese temple or shrine for idol worship. An Asian temple, usually a pyramidal tower with an upward curving roof. Computer science. A tiny electromagnetic coil and metal pole used to write and read magnetic patterns on a disk. Be in charge of. Who is heading this project? A person who is in charge. The head of the whole operation. That which is responsible for one's thoughts, feelings, and conscious brain functions. The seat of the faculty of reason. I couldn't get his words out of my head. Be the first or leading member of a group and excel. This student heads the class. The educator who has executive authority for a school. The upper part of the human body or the front part of the body in animals contains the face and brains. He stuck his head out the window. Travel in front of, go in advance of others. The procession was headed by John. The part in the front or nearest the viewer. He was at the head of the column. A line of text serving to indicate what the passage below it is about. The heading seemed to have little to do with the text. A V-shaped mark at one end of an arrow pointer. A difficult juncture. Matters came to a head yesterday. Forward movement. The ship made little headway against the gale. Oral stimulation of the genitals. They say he gives good head. A dense cluster of flowers or foliage. A head of cauliflower. The subject matter at issue. Under the head of minor Roman poets. Direct the course, determine the direction of traveling. The source of water from which a stream arises. They tracked him back toward the head of the stream. A natural elevation, especially a rocky one that jets out into the sea. Grammar, the word in a grammatical constituent that plays the same grammatical role as the whole constituent. A membrane that is stretched taut over a drum. An individual person. Tickets are $5 per head. A projection out from one end. The head of the nail. A rounded compact mass. The head of a comet. A single domestic animal. 200 head of cattle. A user of, usually soft, drugs. The office was full of secret heads. Be in the front of or on top of. The list was headed by the name of the president. Form a head or come or grow to a head. The wheat headed early this year. Nautical, a toilet on board a boat or ship. Remove the head of. Head the fish. Take its rise. These rivers head from a mountain range in the Himalayas. That part of a skeletal muscle that is away from the bone that it moves. The foam or froth that accumulates at the top when you pour an effervescent liquid into a container. The beer had a large head of foam. The front of a military formation or procession. The head of the column advanced boldly. The length or height based on the size of a human or animal head. He is 2 heads taller than his little sister. The pressure exerted by a fluid. A head of steam. The rounded end of a bone that fits into a rounded cavity in another bone to form a joint. The head of the humerus. The striking part of a tool. The head of the hammer. The tip of an abscess, where the pus accumulates. The top of something. The head of the stairs. To go or travel towards. Where is she heading? Usually plural, the obverse side of a coin that usually bears the representation of a person's head. Call heads or tails. The upper part of the human body or the front part of the body in animals contains the face and brains. A head-like protuberance on an organ or structure. The caput humeri is the head of the humerus which fits into a cavity in the scapula. Architecture. The structure consisting of the part of a classical temple above the columns between a capital and the roof. Anything that approximates the shape of a column or tower. A thin pillar of smoke betrayed their campsite. A vertical cylindrical structure standing alone and not supporting anything, such as a monument. A prominent supporter. He is a pillar of the community. Architecture. A tall vertical cylindrical structure standing upright and used to support a structure. A fundamental principle or practice. Science eroded the pillars of superstition. An article giving opinions or perspectives. Anything that approximates the shape of a column or tower. The test tube held a column of white powder. A vertical cylindrical structure standing alone and not supporting anything, such as a monument. A vertical glass tube used in column chromatography. A mixture is poured in the top and washed through a stationary substance where components of the mixture are adsorbed selectively to form colored bands. Architecture. A tall vertical cylindrical structure standing upright and used to support a structure. A line of units following one after another. Any tubular or pillar-like supporting structure in the body. A page or text that is vertically divided. The newspaper devoted several columns to the subject. A vertical array of numbers or other information. He added a column of numbers. Jews collectively who practice a religion based on the Torah and the Talmud. The monotheistic religion of the Jews having its spiritual and ethical principles embodied chiefly in the Torah and in the Talmud. Any of three successive temples in Jerusalem that served as the primary center for Jewish worship. The first temple contained the Ark of the Covenant and was built by Solomon in the 10th century BC and destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BC. The second was built in 515 BC and the third was an enlargement by Herod the Great in 20 BC that was destroyed by the Romans during a Jewish revolt in AD 70. All that remains is the Wailing Wall. Any of three successive temples in Jerusalem that served as the primary center for Jewish worship. The first temple contained the Ark of the Covenant and was built by Solomon in the 10th century BC and destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BC. The second was built in 515 BC and the third was an enlargement by Herod the Great in 20 BC that was destroyed by the Romans during a Jewish revolt in AD 70. All that remains is the Wailing Wall. The main temple of the goddess Athena, built on the Acropolis in Athens more than 400 years BC, example of Doric architecture. The large temple of the Greek goddess Artemis which was begun at Ephesus in 541 BC and completed 220 years later. The temple was destroyed by the Goths in 262. The Mormon Temple. A large temple at Ephesus that was said to be one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.